In 1970, the United States government passed a law that changed what you're allowed to grow in your own backyard. It's called the Plant Variety Protection Act, and most gardeners have never even heard of it. The Amish have. That's why they never stopped doing what your grandfather did before seed companies started suing farmers for saving their own seeds. Right now, in plain sight, entire communities across Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Indiana are still growing more food per acre than industrial farms, without a single bag of synthetic fertilizer, without a patented seed contract, without a tractor ever touching the soil. And the techniques they're using are older than the United States itself, passed down by hand from one generation to the next, with no manual, no marketing budget, and no product to sell you. Before they figure out a way to regulate this too, here are 10 Amish gardening tricks that still work exactly the way they did 200 years ago, and exactly why the modern seed and fertilizer industry needs you to forget every single one of them. Here's who benefits when you don't know this. Since the 1970s, a small number of agrochemical corporations have consolidated control over the American seed supply. Patent law gave companies the ability to own the genetics of a plant, meaning if you save the seed from a patented crop and replant it next season, you can be taken to court over it. That is not a theory. Look up Bowman versus Monsanto, a soybean farmer in Indiana who bought commodity grain from a grain elevator, replanted a portion of it the way farmers had done for thousands of years, and ended up in front of the United States Supreme Court for it. He lost, unanimously. Government does not want you thinking too hard about how deliberate this shift was. Farm subsidy structures introduced through the mid-20th century rewarded monoculture, single crop fields of corn and soy planted, fence line to fence line, because that's exactly what the chemical fertilizer and pesticide industry could sell into at scale. A single crop, planted the same way in the same dirt every year, needs synthetic nitrogen every season because nothing in that system is cycling nutrients back into the soil naturally. There's no rotation, no diversity, no legume in the mix pulling nitrogen out of the air for free. Diversified, self-sufficient garden plots don't need what they're selling, so there was never any money in teaching you how to run one. That's exactly why diversified growing knowledge simply stopped getting passed down in most American households, generation after generation, until almost nobody remembered how their own great-grandparents fed an entire family off half an acre without ever writing a check to a chemical company. Ask most home gardeners today why they buy new seed every single spring instead of saving their own, and they genuinely don't know the answer. They just assume that's how it's always been done, when it's actually a habit that's less than 60 years old. The Amish didn't sign on to any of it. Religious conviction and a deliberate, generations-deep rejection of dependence on outside systems kept them outside the industrial ag system entirely from the start. No patented seed contracts, no synthetic input dependency, no equipment loans tying a family to a chemical company's product line for the next 15 years of their life. That's the technical detail that proves the whole point. Documented yield studies comparing small, diversified Amish and old order plots against industrial monoculture consistently show the small plots matching or beating industrial yield per acre, using techniques that cost nothing and were common knowledge before 1950. Nobody's putting that on a billboard. Nobody makes a dime when you already have the answer sitting in your own backyard for free right now. And here's the part that should really bother you. None of these 10 techniques are secret. They're not hidden in some locked archive or an old family Bible nobody's allowed to read. They're sitting in plain sight in agricultural extension records, in old farming almanacs from the 1800s, in permaculture textbooks written decades ago. The information was never taken away from you. It was simply never worth anyone's time to put it in front of you, because there's no recurring subscription, no seasonal repurchase, no shipping fee attached to a seed you already own for free. Dealers will never tell you this, but the smartest hobby farmers and market gardeners in the country have quietly gone back to exactly what the Amish never left in the first place. Here are the first 5 of 10 methods that never made it into a garden center flyer because there's no product waiting for you to buy at the end of any of them. Trick 1, the Three Sisters method. Corn, pole beans, and squash planted together in the same mound instead of in separate rows, the way a big box seed rack tells you to. The corn goes in first, and once it's a few inches tall, it gives the beans a living pole to climb. No trellis, no stakes, no plastic netting. The beans are legumes, which means they pull nitrogen straight out of the air through bacteria colonies living on their roots and feed that nitrogen back into the soil for the corn to use all season long. The squash spreads low and wide across the ground underneath both of them, its broad leaves shading out weeds before they ever get a foothold and holding moisture in the soil through the worst heat of summer. Indigenous farmers developed this system long before European settlement ever reached North America, and Amish growers adopted and refined it further for their own climate and soil. The net result is that it eliminates the need for synthetic nitrogen fertilizer entirely on that bed. 3 plants, 1 mound, 0 fertilizer bag, every single year. Trick 2, seed saving. Amish households keep their own open-pollinated heirloom seed stock year after year, deliberately selecting and drying seed from their strongest, healthiest, most disease-resistant, most productive plants at the end of every single season. It costs nothing beyond a little extra time. It's functionally illegal to attempt with most patented commercial hybrid seed under current agricultural law. And it's the single biggest reason Amish gardens keep getting better adapted to their exact soil, their exact microclimate, their exact local pest pressure, every single year they're worked. While a fresh store-bought packet resets your garden right back to a generic national average every spring, with none of the local adaptation carried forward at all. Trick 3. Mound and timber beds, sometimes called hugelkultur beds, in permaculture circles today. Though Amish growers were building versions of this decades before that word ever entered the gardening vocabulary. Old logs, branches, and brush get laid down in a low pile and covered over with soil and finished compost to build a raised growing mound. As the wood slowly breaks down underground over the following years, it acts like a giant sponge, soaking up water during rain events and slow releasing both moisture and nutrients back up to the root systems above it for years and years afterward. That means no irrigation system running through a drought, and no fertilizer bag needed on that bed for years at a stretch, because the whole structure is doing the work on its own underground. Trick 4. Real manure compost, aged properly for months before it ever touches a growing bed, cycled straight from the barn to the field the exact way it's been done for generations without interruption. Not a chemical NPK blend bought in a plastic bag from a garden center shelf, mixed in a factory somewhere and shipped across the country. Actual decomposed organic matter, full of the living microbial life that physically rebuilds soil biology over time, instead of just feeding the plant one synthetic hit of nutrients for a single season while leaving the soil underneath it no healthier, no richer, and no more alive than it was the year before. Trick 5. Strict crop rotation, tracked by family memory passed down at the dinner table across generations, or by a simple handwritten notebook kept in a kitchen drawer. On if we're never a computer app, never a subscription service telling you what to plant. Heavy feeders like corn go into a bed one year. Nitrogen-fixing legumes follow the next season to rebuild exactly what the corn used up. Then light feeders like root vegetables come in after that to finish the cycle. This single practice breaks the pest and disease cycles that quietly build up in soil when you plant the same family of crop in the exact same dirt year after year, which, without anyone ever explaining why, is exactly what most home gardeners do, without realizing that's precisely why their tomatoes get a little worse, a little more disease-prone, a little more pest-riddled, every single summer that passes. Put those first 5 together, and you've already got a system that feeds itself. The corn and beans and squash build nitrogen instead of consuming it. The saved seed adapts to your land instead of resetting every spring. The underground timber in a mound bed holds water through a drought that would otherwise cost you a full harvest. The manure compost feeds soil biology instead of just feeding the plant for one season. And the rotation prevents disease from ever building up enough to need a chemical response in the first place. None of that is folklore. It's just agriculture with the middleman removed. Here are the next 5 and exactly how to run all 10 of these in your own yard, no matter how small your space actually is. Trick 6. Deep straw mulching. Not the thin, decorative half-inch layer most people scatter around a flower bed for looks. A real, thick layer, 4 to 6 inches deep, packed in tight around every single plant stem, not just tossed loosely across the walking paths between beds. It chokes out weed seedlings before they ever break the surface of the soil. It keeps soil temperature stable through sudden heat spikes that would otherwise stress and shock root systems. And unlike landscape plastic or dyed mulch bought from a hardware store, straw breaks down naturally into rich organic matter by the following season, instead of sitting in a landfill or leaching dye into your soil for years. Trick 7. Hand and horse cultivation instead of heavy machinery. Amish growers never run a tractor over their growing beds, full stop. Heavy equipment compacts soil under its own weight with every single pass, crushing the small air pockets that plant roots and water both absolutely depend on to move freely underground. Working beds by hand tool or with a horse-drawn cultivator on larger acreage keeps the soil structure loose and workable for decades, instead of getting compacted flat and hard within just a few growing seasons. The way a lot of tilled backyard gardens quietly do without the owner ever noticing why yields start slipping. Trick 8. Cold frames and hotbeds built from old salvaged windows and untreated scrap lumber instead of an expensive purchased greenhouse kit shipped in a box. A simple sloped wooden box with a glass or heavy plastic lid set directly over a growing bed traps daytime heat inside and protects against overnight frost damage, extending the usable growing season by 4 to 6 full weeks on both the front and back end of the year without a greenhouse-sized budget and without a permanent structure taking over the yard. Trick 9. Interplanting for pest control instead of reaching for a spray bottle at the first sign of trouble. Marigolds planted around tomato beds release compounds through their roots that deter root knot nematodes in the soil. Garlic and onion planted along a border push off aphids with their natural scent alone. Nasturtiums planted near brassicas like cabbage and broccoli act as a sacrificial trap crop, pulling cabbage worms onto themselves and away from the actual plants you're trying to harvest and eat. The fix is built directly into the layout and design of the garden itself, not purchased fresh in a bottle every single time a pest shows up on a leaf. Trick 10, planting by a traditional almanac calendar, timing certain crops to moon phases the way it's been practiced continuously in Amish and Old Order communities for generations. The underlying science on moon phase planting specifically is genuinely debated among agricultural researchers, and this video isn't going to pretend otherwise just to make a better story. But the almanac tradition forces the same underlying discipline that most modern growers skip entirely. Tracking your exact local last frost and first frost dates by hand, watching your actual soil temperature with a thermometer instead of a printed calendar date, and planning your entire season around your specific plot of ground instead of just planting whenever a seed packet happened to arrive in the mail that week. Here's exactly how to start putting all of this together, step by step. Build your Three Sisters mound in late spring once the soil has fully warmed. A single mound about a foot high and 3 feet across is enough for a first attempt. Corn planted first. Beans ringed around it once the corn reaches about 6 inches tall. Squash planted around the outer edge, last of all 3. Pick heirloom or open pollinated seed specifically anytime you buy anything new. The packet has to say it directly in writing, because seed labeled F1 hybrid will not breed true if you try to save and replant it next year. If you're building a mound and timber bed, use untreated hardwood logs and branches only, never pressure-treated lumber, which leaches chemical preservatives straight into the exact soil you're trying to build up. Lay your straw mulch 4 to 6 inches deep, not a token sprinkle that disappears after the first hard rain. And track your rotation on paper. Heavy feeders like corn one season, nitrogen-fixing legumes the next, roots and light feeders after that. In a simple 3 or 4 year cycle, you can actually remember without a spreadsheet. Look for these specific signs that you're doing it right within the first season alone. Soil that stays visibly moist 2 full days after rain without any irrigation running at all. Noticeably fewer pest holes on companion planted beds compared to anything planted alone in a single row nearby for comparison. And by year 3 of saving your own seed, germination that's visibly faster and stronger than anything you bought fresh out of a store-bought packet the same spring, because that seed has spent 3 full years adapting specifically to your dirt and nowhere else. None of these 10 tricks require acreage, a barn, or a horse of your own to actually use. A single raised bed in a suburban backyard can run a scaled-down Three Sisters mound. A 5-gallon bucket of finished compost from your own kitchen scraps can start your manure and compost cycle without ever owning livestock. A couple of salvaged storm windows leaned against a frame in the corner of a yard can function as a cold frame through an entire off-season. The scale changes. The underlying principle doesn't. Every one of these methods was developed by people working small plots by hand, not people running 1,000-acre operations with a fleet of equipment, which is exactly why they translate so directly to a backyard garden today. They want you trapped in a cycle, and it's worth saying plainly, out loud, exactly how that cycle works. Buy the hybrid seed every single spring because it won't breed true and you have no real choice but to come back and buy it again. Buy the synthetic fertilizer every season because the soil underneath your feet never actually gets a chance to rebuild its own biology on its own terms. Buy the pesticide every time because you never interplanted anything that would have solved the exact same problem for free in the first place, using nothing but the right 2 plants next to each other. None of that is accidental, and none of it is a coincidence. That is the business model in plain terms, and it has worked quietly for 50 straight years because almost nobody left alive remembers there was ever another way to grow food at all. Here's how to fight back, and it genuinely doesn't require converting your entire yard overnight into some kind of homestead. Start with 1 bed. Save seed from just 1 variety this year and see what happens next spring. Build 1 mound and timber bed this fall and let it settle quietly through the winter months. You need to break the cycle in 1 single corner of your yard first, and let it prove itself to you directly with your own 2 hands in your own dirt before you ever think about scaling any of it further. The Amish never needed a marketing department, a billboard, or a national ad campaign to convince them any of this worked. 200 straight years of real harvests told them everything they ever needed to know about it. Every one of these 10 tricks costs close to nothing. It uses tools most households already own. It gets stronger every single year instead of resetting back to 0 every spring the way a store-bought system is designed to. That's not nostalgia. That's just what happens when you stop paying for a problem that was never that complicated to begin with. Try trick 1 or trick 2 this season and put it directly in the comments below. I genuinely want to know which one you're starting with first. And if this one hit for you, I've already got a full follow-up planned covering 6 more traditional methods that simply didn't make the cut for time today.